Okay, welcome. Happy Tuesday. For me, I've been pretty busy coming back here this week, which is good. Busy is better than not busy. Uh, so we're doing this cruise ship model. We worked on it quite a bit yesterday. We did um, all the ticket revenue assumptions. We got some staffing assumptions, some variable cost stuff for food and gas. Um, Now remember, we're integrating this within the previous template, which was assisted living, because it has really good assumptions for development, construction, all that kind of thing, and depreciation. Um, and so that fit really well. Obviously, the revenue and some of the variable costs I'm rebuilding, which is what we're doing here on stream. And we'll have to get everything linked up with the financial statements. But before I get started, remember to check out smarthelping.com. You can buy all the templates I've ever built on the whole site for $9.99. I've done a lot of work with SaaS and membership-based models, a lot of real estate stuff, underwriting tools, and then a lot of industry-specific startup financial models, which is this category is where the cruise ship template will be put into. Um, Also, a tab at the top here is where you can find the same templates. And so we're just moving along here. Things are going pretty good. It's actually quite warm. I think we're gonna get a 65-degree day here in Ohio, which is nice for mid-February. Uh, so that's awesome. Love to get out and about in the middle of winter with when it's warm. So yeah, there's all kinds of logic and stuff I've built over the years for all kinds of clients, and I've used all that knowledge to build the best in practice templates for financial forecasting, modeling, financial calculators, all that. So you can get that here and enjoy. Let's do a sound check on the stream real quick. Check on the stream real quick. Sounds good, looks good. Do a Twitter live spreadsheet modeling cruise ship economics. Okay. Now we've got this link here we were using yesterday. This has some good information on it. Today we're going to focus on, we're trying to finish revenue. So you can see the biggest thing, well, so ticket sales are in, this is based on this website, say 62% of the average revenue from cruise ships is based on ticket sales and 38% is on onboard purchases. Onboard purchases being alcohol and drinks, casino, spa. So I'm going to build some kind of logic for all of these items. Now, let me think here. So let's just go. So right now we can define the number of excursions that happen per month, the average cruise length of each excursion, total days on not excursions, but you know, what do we want to call these? Number of what do we want to call it? Cruise number of, what do you call when a cruise ship goes out and takes people out? I guess excursion. Number of sea excursions. Average length of the cruise, total days, average distance per cruise. This is going to be for the gas. Now we looked yesterday. It's kind of interesting. The gas mileage for these cruise ships is like the gas efficiency is about between 0.002 and 0.008 miles per gallon. So, you're getting about 12 to 30 feet on 1 gallon. A lot of food costs, labor costs. So for staffing, it's kind of crazy. Like these numbers are going to be very low from what I could see. A lot of cruise ships will hire. Now it depends on your cruise ship. Or if it's like a yacht excursion for a small party, then the labor force is probably going to get paid much more. But if it's a giant cruise ship that has 3 to 5 thousand people on it at a time, the labor force is extensive, and from what I saw, they outsource a lot of it to foreign countries and pay them quite a small amount, like $1 to $2 an hour, which I thought was kind of crazy. Uh, and there's all kinds of tax loopholes and stuff with cruise ships, but we're not getting into that. I just want to focus on the operations. So as far as positions, like you might have like 50, 20, on a big cruise ship. Let's say you have maybe 144 of these people, but these people are only making, let's say, a month, maybe $800. Uh, Now they do earn tips, and usually the gratuities are included, and it's pretty hard to opt out of them if you're a passenger. But you can also tip on top of that, so that probably helps. But as far as the cost to the cruise liner itself, they're paying somewhere around this amount per month, and these guys are working, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's kind of crazy. All right, let's zero this out. And payroll tax and benefits, I don't even know. There's options for it if it'll depend on the situation. But we're gonna zero all this out. Now, obviously, there's going to be administrative, executives, they're going to be getting paid more, which you can account for in the model here. Where we have, I think, operations starting in August in this model. So there'll be some one-off executive, management teams, all that you can account for just running the cruise liner. And then you've also got outsourced. Now this was for assisted living, but this is outsourced, talent or what have you. And you could define a count and a monthly fee paid per count for that. So this is all fine. Other outsourced professionals. And you could just, develop some average spend per month on these items. And that logic is all good. Then other costs, so like this, it would be non-variable costs though. So you're not looking at gas, we're already accounting for that. Labor, we're already accounting for that, but these would be maybe things like legal, insurance, other things you could define on a monthly basis. Then down here, we did the variable cost assumptions so far. We have this, but there's going to be more. I'm just, reacquainting myself with what in the world's going on here. So we haven't actually cleared any of this off on the monthly detail yet. We'll have to clear all of this off. Here, just clear everything. This is all going to be rebuilt for revenue. Same with the annual. And one thing I like to do when I'm working with an existing spreadsheet is I will delete rows. Well, actually, we don't need to delete these. Let's just ungroup. But if I need to, I will delete rows of data I'm deprecating, because then it'll show up as an error wherever it's referenced, and then that error shows me, okay, that needs to be fixed. So that's okay to do when you're doing these kind of integrations. Let's get back to revenue. So this works for ticket revenues. We have up to 10 ticket pricings. the percentage of total cruise members of each one. We have the number of cruises happening per month. And again, these are weighted averages. So if you do a 4 day, oh my goodness, on the stream yesterday we did a quite a extensive weighted average calculator. Um, I'm gonna put that in here just as a helper calculator. Weighted average calculator, just so you can understand how to calculate your average ticket prices here. So let's say, um, you have a ticket price 1 through 10, because I thought it was too hard to do this in your head or watch me do the calculation and then repeat it. So we're just going to try to put it here. So you have 10 ticket prices, and you want to know what's your weighted average of each price based on, a 3 day cruise is going to be less expensive than an 8 day. It's going to be less expensive than a 12 day likely. So on average, you want to know for this ticket price deal, and these ticket prices will basically represent different rooms on the ship. And you don't have to use them all if you don't need to, but to fill this in, you want to know how many times you're going on each cruise length in a month. So if it were, 3 4 day cruises and then one 12-day cruise, how do you figure out, well, what's my average ticket price for the month for all those cruises? All right, so let's think about this. Format these as dollars. Let's say on average in a month, how do we do this? Because so you would put in for the month count of cruises type 1, and you could have up to, let's say, I don't know, 5 different types, and all these are going to only vary by the day count. So in a given month, let's say for type 1, you're going to charge $800 a ticket. And again, these are, let's say ticket price 1 is for, um, deck 1, room type, or let's just type room type 1. Or room type 10. And these could be all different. You could also have different features included in these. But we want to say, okay, if we do in a given month, we do X amount of these. You do maybe a cheaper one, more expensive one, middle, and then maybe a really expensive one. All right, so for this room type and whatever comes with it, you do up to 5 different cruises in a given month. Now what you have to do is define count of cruises per month. Now let's say it's 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Now actually that's kind of irrelevant. You're not going to go on. I mean, if they're 4-day cruises, you might do. I mean, I guess you could do like a 4-day. I'm trying to think how to do this best. So if we do 2 of these, 1 of these, and then let's say 0, 0, 0. So let's just say we're going to do two cruise types. This is 8-day cruises. We just put, 8-day cruise, 4-day cruise, 10-day cruise, 5-day cruise, and then, 15-day cruise. So obviously you can't, if you did two of these at 16, one of those that's 20, you could do one of these and then you're at 30 days. So you can't really do more than that. You might only have to do one of each. Now, what we can say, and you could do this for all these different prices. Let's say we're just going to multiply these by 2%. Okay. So here are the room types, and on a given cruise, here is the cost of the tickets. Now, this mirrors this here. But what you want to do is say, well, what's my weighted average? And this is the number we want here. Let's put it up front. Weighted average ticket price. Because when you go and fill in the data here, ticket revenue, and you just put in a standard, all the model logic is going to see is, well, there were, let's say in month 9, 2 cruises, each with 5,000 passengers. So 10,000 total ticket sales. And 5% were this, X% were this, Z% were that, and so on, depending on how many different ticket pricings you have. And then you're going to have to figure out, well, of these 2 cruises, well, how much were, or let's say there was 3. The model doesn't know automatically the weighted average ticket price. You're filling in the average ticket price for each one. But now to get a good number for each of these, we can go to the weighted average calculator, and you could fill in, let's see, all this data is editable. You would fill in now the granular costs of each of the cruise types that you're going to do, or that are possible to happen in a given month. And then we say, well, based on that, the weighted, what am I doing? The weighted average is some product, and we want to multiply these by these. And then, man, yesterday when I was doing this, it took me a bit. I was just not on the uptake. Now we divide that by the total count here. And there is your weighted average price for each type of ticket. And so you can fill this in based on your own specific cruise data, and it doesn't have to be a whole bunch. It could be smaller, uh, you know. Let's make sure this makes sense as well. So if we added this and this, we're now saying that on any given cruise that happens in this monthly configuration, ticket price 1, the weighted average price is 1,040, which would then go into here. Ticket price 2 is this one, average weighted average is 1,060. And that gives you an aggregate number, and you could just plug in, this is the configuration of cruises that happen in a month. I can't put in every configuration, but I could say on average, based on this happening, the average ticket is worth 1,060. Now let's check the math here. Let's say there were 2 of these and 0 of these. So let's really look here. So now you could say we multiply these all together. You get $4,200 in revenue in theory per total revenue of all these cruises happening, and then that's happening over five total cruises. Sorry, 1,600 for the first one, but if we add all up, you're $4,200 across 5 cruises. So then all we're doing is dividing these two, and this is what the sum product formula does to get the 840. So that's how that is calculated. And so this will be a little helper that you can use to figure out what your actual, and we'll put weighted average here. To populate that. Now you could say, well, what if we do a 3-day cruise, or we only offer 2 options, 3-day or 10-day. And in a given month, we might do 2 of these and 3 of these. What's that? 29 days out. Or maybe 2 of these. So that's 3, 6, 26 days. And you don't do any of these. Well, and you're saying the 2-day cruise, let's say that cost $400 a ticket. And the 10-day cruise cost $1,500 a ticket. And you do 2 of these a month and 3 of these a month. So in theory, you're getting $4,200 on 5 cruises. And this is extrapolated, then you would just multiply this by the passenger count, but you're getting, so 4,200 divided by 5, 800, wait a second. Oh, we had a 5-day in there. 840. Now, is that the same number I just had? Somehow? Let's adjust that. So 900 there. So we got 4,500 divided by 5, 9. So it's just a helper. Because you don't know, the model doesn't know how many of these cruises, if there's more than one a month, or if there's multiple, how many of them have a ticket price of X, Y, or Z for each of these ticket prices. Or whatever these represent, which is basically just room types. All right, so are these? No, these are hard-coded. Ticket price 1 through 10. Ticket price 1 through 10. Actually, we don't even need this. This is more clear without that. So helper calculation for knowing what the average price of a ticket is for a given type of ticket based on how many cruises happen in a given period of each cruise type length. For example, shorter cruises likely cost less and longer cruises cost more. So if I were doing this in this case, I would say, well, for ticket price 1, average is $900 a ticket. So I go over here, I put 900. And however many cruises happen in this month, for ticket price 1, we're charging $900 times however many passengers there are times this percentage here. All right, now I think we're pretty clear on this concept and the logic that's happening. Forgot to put this up. So, yeah, this is good. Let's make this in white because this doesn't actually flow anywhere. This data does not flow anywhere. It is just to help you enter good assumptions for the ticket pricing on the ticket revenue tab for columns U to AD. Okay. So I believe we have everything we need on ticket revenues. So let's talk about other costs or other revenues. So ticket revenue is one thing. Now I kind of want to use this format, but let's do, what do we call this? What do they call this stuff? Onboard purchases. All right, so this is going to be tricky. Let's clear off this for now. Oh, we also add cost to do turnover. Yeah, we'll do that. These notes are on the other tab. So number of, how do we want to do this? Onboard purchase is, this is ticket revenue. Okay, well, let's just start with the first one and just move on from that. So what was the first one? Alcoholic drinks. That's a big one. So what we want to say is we have this schedule of how many number of sea excursions. I don't like this term. I want to put something else. Number of cruises per month. How about that? Number of cruises per month. Now on each cruise, we can say, so this data we want to bring in, I believe, as a reference. We don't want it to be editable. So if that changes, we just want this to be the exact same as this. Number of, let's wrap this text. Number of cruises per month. Now per cruise, we want to say, well, we actually probably also want to know the total tickets sold per cruise times the cruise count. So in a given month, here's how many tickets are actually sold. Now what we want to do here is say percentage of passengers purchasing alcohol. And this will be a real simple calculation. We just say percentage of passengers doing drinking alcohol. Let's say, I don't know, 20%. And then we can simply do is define average alcohol spend for someone who buys it on the entire cruise. So you've got, all right, so this here, let's say on average, if you're spending alcohol, on average, you spend, let's say, $200. And this can be adjusted over time as well. We'll zero these out. So these you did one cruise for August. You had 5,000 passengers. 20% of them are purchasing alcohol, so that's 1,000. And over the course of the whole cruise, they spend $200 on alcohol. Now what you'd put here is average margin on alcohol. So you have to look at, let's say you buy all the alcohol for $10,000, and let's say it cost you $2,000. In that case, your margin is going to be 8,000 in the profit divided by 10,000. So 80% would reflect that. So we can go over here and put in, okay, my margins are 80%. And let's say, what if they're, let's say 35%. Now it'll be dependent on what kind of alcohol you're selling. But what we say here is simply if people buy it for $200, so that's this number, and the margin is 35%, then we need to know what is the average profit made on this. So we could say here, average profit per passenger for alcohol. And we simply say it is 1. Well, actually we could put in this times this. And that will back into the cost as well, which would then be the difference of these two. So here in this case, okay, we sell it for 200, cost us 30, margin is 7, or gross profit margin is 70. That divided by that is 35. So that's our check. So it's working. This all makes sense. So here I can say alcohol cost per passenger profit per passenger on alcohol based on these margins and the average amount spent. And then we just multiply that by the number of passengers purchasing alcohol to get the actual revenue, which we'll do on the monthly detail. Now, all right, guys, I got to go to the bathroom. Stand by. Be right back in 5 minutes. And we're going to basically do the same structure for all the types of other income that could happen. I think this is the easiest way to do it. It is reflecting the passenger count, which is nice for scale. This all will drive how much revenue you're making for these other things. And we can kind of follow this structure for all the different types, like off-board excursions. Well, we'll see. The alcohol one it's a good idea to do that with margins. We might have to do a different style for other things, but we'll see. All right, I'll be right back. 5 minutes. Okay, I am back. Let's get this going. So where were we? Um, yes. Onboard purchases. All right, so we have this. Here is the alcohol section. Okay, now let's see what else do we got here. Alcohol, casino, gambling. So for casino gambling, let's put this over here. So the cruise ship is essentially, and these don't have to be mutually exclusive here. Cruise ship is essentially casino in for this section. So we say percentage of passengers that gamble. And we're not getting super in depth here. All we're basically saying is let's say, I don't know, 10%. Now, all those like gambling machines and equipment and everything, you would account for in this development and acquisition. You would put in, let's say you label this other equipment, and you put in all the different gambling machines here, what their cost is, and they'll have a depreciable life. Now you can also do CapEx here on this, but note none of this is subject to financing. Only what is here is subject to debt financing. And this is way more robust, this with this, and it's easier to see than what's going on here on the CapEx. So you probably, I'm just going to zero this out now as a default, since we have that others part. But it could be the case that you have items here that are just, you're not going to finance them, and that's fine. And it's just coming from equity. And now for the stuff that is getting financed, you can see we've got our draw schedule here for the construction. You get accrue interest, yes or no, and then it rolls into a P&I. This is just based on the percentage of all those development costs, acquisition costs, initial, everything that's put in here, the percentage that gets financed based on this in the amounts. All right. Now, usually from what I have researched and what I know, a cruise ship will be doing maintenance and all of that kind of thing on the actual cruises that are happening. So it's not just like, maybe you might have a big renovation in the future, like after 5 years or so, or maybe 10, that you might want to use the CapEx schedule for. That might make sense. And if so, you can just put that in there, what it cost in the month it happens, and that'll just hit the cash flow. But what we're really concerned with is the initial construction or acquisition startup costs, and then how much revenue you're making based on all these items, and as well as all the staffing costs. Okay, so percentage of passengers that gamble. Say 10% gamble. Now what we could say here is, on average, those that are gambling, average loss per person, average gambling losses per passenger. So that's just going to be something you have from research or you gather data, but basically, you just put in a number here. On average, an average person loses maybe $150. So you got 10% of the 5,000, so that's 500 people uh, gambling over the course of the month, and each one loses on average 150 bucks. And that number can adjust over time. It could be the same over time, and it could be whatever number makes sense, and that could be dependent on the machines you have or whatever. You're just trying to get an average. So this would be revenue for the cruise ship. This is revenue for the cruise ship. This is cost. There's no cost related to the casino gambling except for if there's any staffing, you'll put staff in for who's manning the casinos. And then if they're obviously the cost to buy all the machines and everything and keep them up to date, which all that the buying is here, the keeping up to date, you could put that in other costs as a fixed monthly cost, casino maintenance. What are you spending per month on that? And that's it. Okay, so that's a shorter one. What else do we have here? So alcohol, casino gambling. Spa. So again, we're not doing direct. There's no profit margins here with spa. It's going to be kind of like this one. We'll just say spa percentage of passengers that partake that passengers using spa. What do they call this? Spa treatments. How many percentage use that? And average spend on spa per customer or per passenger. Let's say, I don't know, $100. So you could put the count that do that. Maybe this is higher. Maybe it's like 25%. So here, 25% of 5,000 is what, a fourth of 5,000? I don't know, 1,250. You got 1,250 people paying $100, and they're getting spas. Now the cost of the spa people, that would be probably under staffing, and it's either outsourced talent, which you pay them a fee every month based on how many there are, or it might be probably not employees, but it could be. And if so, you can account for that here. Count, position type, count, and the monthly salary. So plenty of ways to account for that. Okay, so spa treatments. Art auctions. I definitely saw art and jewelry auctions. So that's going to be more like the alcohol. Art and jewelry auctions. So percentage of passengers purchasing art, jewelry, whatever that might be. Average spend per passenger on art, jewelry. Let's say, I don't know, this could be a lot, maybe 300 for those that do it, but maybe it's only like 5%. I don't know. These numbers I have no idea about, but the point is you can account for them with your data and research of your specific type of cruise you're doing. So percentage, let's say an average is 300, but then again, that could change over time. And then average margin. So this is what so if you're, again, let's say your cost is $1,000 or no, let's just do it with this number. Say the average person spends 300, and what they buy, it costs to ship, let's say 50. In that case, the average margin is 83%. In that case, average profit per passenger on jewelry and art. So what the average person spends on the cruise for that, the percentage of total passengers that buy anything from art and jewelry, the margin, and that tells you you're making $250 per person here, whatever that is, profit, and the cost is here. Now, any fixed costs related to that you would account for elsewhere. Any talent or, employees that have to deal with that, you would account for elsewhere. But here, we're just looking at what people are paying and what the cruise is paying to supply that. And we'll pull both of those into the monthly detail as well. So that is something. Now, shore excursions. This is going to be more like this. And all you do is say shore excursions. Let's say this is going to be a high percentage. It might be 80% of people. So 80% of your passengers are buying tickets to shore excursions. You could do average spend on shore excursions per passenger. Doing shore excursions. And how much are they spending in total on average? So that you might have 4 different excursions people can go out, and you might be charging, as the cruise ship, you might be charging them to do that. Now the direct costs of this will vary. Thinking, do we want to put in a margin? I think this might make sense because if, let's say, the cruise liner, now this could be more complicated, but I'm trying to not make it complicated. If the cruise liner, let's say, has a deal with a bus company, and so they charge, or let's say the cruise takes people to the beach, it's like a 5-mile drive. People pay $40 a ticket, I've seen on stuff like that, to go. And maybe the cruise liner takes half of that and the bus gets the other half. So we're just going to put a margin here. And that could be relevant to all kinds of different excursions. But I think for this specific one, we do want to tie costs to revenue. We want to tie some cost to this directly instead of just like for the spot treatments, casino gambling, anything related to that for fixed costs is accounted for elsewhere. Art and jewelry, alcohol, and I believe shore excursions we should do as a direct cost. So let's say it's 50%. And I'd say the average person might spend $250 on this. So, and you got 80% of people doing shore excursions over the full trip. On average for the cruise, they're spending $250 each. So these 80% of the passengers spend $250. Margin is 50%. So average profit per passenger and excursion costs per, and this is for the cruise ship. Now if the margins were, let's say 20%, that cost is going to go up. So yeah, now you're only making, if somebody buys $250 worth of shore excursions, on average the cruise ship's getting 200 or 50, and it's costing. Wait, how does this? They're making $50. They're getting 250. They're paying $200 out, so they're only keeping 50 of that per passenger that does it. Okay, and you basically get the idea. So oh, this should be plenty of granularity to account for onboard purchases. Okay, do we? Yeah, I guess we'll do a right border here. Here. We could do all this at once. So that one. That one. Okay. All right, awesome. So we're moving along here. We've got all our ticket revenue logic. We've got all our onboard purchase logic. Next is now to tie everything together in the monthly detail and really start to see and be able to play with assumptions to see, what has to be true in order for a cruise liner to make a certain amount over time. All these assumptions. So we did this. Go down to this. I do want to add a variable cost for turnover. So we will do this not on the stream today. I'm probably done because I got a lot of other modeling work going on, but this is what we'll do next. And once that's done, we can probably, I'd say next week, we might get pretty close to wrapping this one up, which I'm excited about. I want to get this thing out there and go. I think it's a great template. Oh, I did want to make one adjustment on the income statement for this. I'm going to remove this max wrap here. And that's specific only to this style with the depreciation happening here in this. We want to make sure if there's a loss, let's say it's worth 10 million for, let's say you sell it for 9 million. Related to these costs here, you're technically taking a loss on the assets, and in that case, that loss should come through here and reduce taxable income. Now, don't worry, this is obviously you're not going to sell it for a $29 million loss. This is all got to be updated with all the revenue logic I've already built, so that'll be done next week. Just want to make sure that's working good. Okay, great. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Remember, check out more templates at smarthelping.com. Here, you can buy everything I've built for $9.99, and again, pay once, access forever, and everything I build in the future. Same goes for all the bundles, or you can buy templates individually. I'll see you guys on the next one. Probably next week, Monday at 10 a.m.